Well, good-looking people, it's Halloween, and as all the ghouls and gals are out gallivanting around on this grayest of days, Tyler has decided that he has a very, very scary idea that he would like to share with us. So Tyler, what is your scary, scary thought that is rattling around in your spooky brain today?
Yes, Brett, as you know, every now and then you get that inkling, that suspicion, or conspiracy, if you will, that you can't help but think about, and you feel kind of crazy because you're like, am I the only one who has this connection? Am I the only one seeing these dots? And so I thought I would bring this to you and the good-looking people. And it is Boy Meets World themed, so it's on point, and it's Halloween, so it feels right to bring it up now, if you know what I mean.
All right, I'm ready. Hit me with it.
So, to give context to the viewers, especially those of you who haven't finished the show, Boy Meets World, which I'm sorry for that, and I'm about to spoil the ending a little bit, but our friends, Corey, Sean, Topanga, they all leave to go to New York, right? So Topanga gets this great law internship that she's going to go and do, and Corey's going to go with her because he's being a supportive husband, and Eric decides he wants to go, so he goes, and Sean goes because Corey said come, and he comes. So it ends nice. They're going off on a new adventure. It's lovely. It's wonderful. Great. We run into Corey and Topanga later on in the years. And of course, at this time, he has a teenager and a young child. We get to know their life at that time. But that's the lighthearted end of the story, right? It's the everything worked out great. Corey and Eric or Sean finished their education. Maybe not Sean, but Corey probably finished his education in New York and got all the certificates for becoming a teacher and blah, blah, blah. But what about our other friends? We learn in Girl Meets World that Sean becomes a famous photographer and Eric becomes a politician in a small community. But what if in a darker universe, if you will, things didn't go so well? At least for one of these characters. Because let's just pretend for a moment that in every universe of possibilities, Corey always ends up as a teacher. And Topanga is always a amazing lawyer / stay-at-home mom somehow, and eventually a coffee house manager, owner, blah, blah, blah. And Sean is always supposed to become a famous photographer, even though that job is really going out of style, and there's not a likelihood that's a viable option anymore. But let's just say that's the case, Brett. But in one of these universes, we have Eric, who is kind of stumbling through New York. Like he wants to go there to reinvent himself, and he doesn't know who he wants to be. And Topanga said at the end of the show, just be you. That's who we like you being. But there's a problem, Brett. See, downtown New York is not suburbs of Philadelphia. And not the rosy-tinted suburb that Sean, Topanga, and Corey live on. I know that Sean, lives in the trailer park and all that jazz, but Eric has never really probably lived in a really bad environment or a really bad area. In fact, when they go to the trailer park at one point for Thanksgiving, Eric is by far the most uncomfortable and most ready to leave and doesn't want anything to do with it. Now, Eric's not shallow. He just grew up a little more privileged than others. But let's just say, for argument's sake, he looks around and realizes there's a lot of problem on these streets, and I have a college education, and what type of career? It helps to have an education, but it doesn't have to be a specific education. The police force. And what is New York City known for? New York City is known for turning out a lot of police officers. And so Eric decides while he's there, he doesn't know what to do. He goes to the police academy. And wouldn't you know it, his weird antics, actually it pays off for him. He's able to learn things in ways that other people can't. He thinks differently than others, and he has compassion and empathy because that's who Eric is. Eric always has compassion and empathy. But he runs into somebody, Brett. He's almost through the academy, almost about to become a full-fledged New York police officer, when he runs into an old fling that we have not met on the episode yet, but her name is Kelly. And Kelly, for those of you that don't know who she is yet, has a son, Ryan. And Eric really likes Kelly. And he meets Ryan, and he really likes him too. And Corey Topanga, Eric is not quite ready for such an intense relationship, because when you date a mom, you're also, in a way, dating the child. And how much the child and you get along is indicative of how close you and the mom is going to be, or the dad, whoever it is in that situation. So if you don't have a good relationship with a kid, or if they are too attached to you or not enough attached to you, all that causes problems. So for argument's sake, Brett, we're going to say that Eric runs into Kelly. And of course, that means he runs back into Ryan. And he's about to become a police officer in the quote-unquote greatest city in the world. And he decides, I think her and I need to give this thing a shot again. And so they date briefly. And, because of the fact of Ryan, he decides, we've been dating for a few months now, and let's get married. And she goes along with it, and she agrees, and the two of them, almost, it's like they picked up where they last were, Brett, They're in a great honeymoon phase, but we learn that Kelly actually lives in Jersey. She doesn't live in New York. For those of you that don't know, people are in New York. Sometimes that means they actually live in Jersey and back and forth. So Eric realized that she actually lives in Jersey, and so he moves to be towards her. And after graduating from the police department, or from the academy, he requests to get transferred to New Jersey, which he does. I don't know how all that works exactly, but let's just say, argument's sake, he's able to go from starting in New York but going ultimately to New Jersey to be a police officer. But Eric, because he's compassionate, does a good job. He is, on duty, learning how to be a cop, and he does a good job, and the people in his area, they really like him, and he is himself. He's kind of a goofball, and people like that, but he needs to be a little more serious. He's got things to think about, and we all know that throughout the course of Boy Meets World, anytime Eric has responsibilities, he is quite serious about those responsibilities. So Eric knows that he has a wife and an adopted child now that he has to worry about and deal with, and he has to deal with the fact that this child of his is someone that he's trying to help raise and show how to be a man, and he tries to be Alan for him, except the only problem is that Ryan is not Eric, and Ryan does not always take well to the way that Eric tries to parent him, because he tries to parent exactly like Alan parented, and it doesn't always go well. He loves the kid loves him, but, especially as he gets older, it's like those little things start to creep up of, not really liking what's happening. He gets kind of disrespectful a little bit. But Eric, being a good police officer, he rises up through the ranks actually pretty quickly and becomes a detective quite fast. And slowly but surely, Eric starts to make maybe questionable calls, because he's the one going to murder investigations, and he's going to drug busts, and he's going to places, and he's the person in charge in these situations. And so Eric kind of gets a bad reputation of the justice comes first, if you will, in his eyes. Like, someone going to jail is more important than maybe having all the right evidence exactly the way they're supposed to be. Because, earlier on in his career, he'd get frustrated because guys he knew was guilty and should be in jail didn't always go to jail because the system sometimes doesn't work the way it's supposed to. And bad people will get off free because of the way that the system is. And that, it starts to eat away at Eric, if you know what I mean. And so, Eric is getting older now, and let's say he's in that more 40-ish range. He's a little more grizzly, and he even starts cutting his hair shorter because he's, starting to bald a little bit. It happens to every guy. And so Eric is doing questionable things. He's planning evidence, a little more than he wants to, but he knows, hey, whoever I'm sending to jail, they're supposed to be there, right? And in fact, he gets a little more aggressive with people too. Like he starts to learn that, because he starts working out more and he gets a little more athletic build, because Eric's never really had much of a real athletic build, but he gets a little muscles on him, and he realizes, oh, if I'm a little more rougher with people, I'll get the answers I need, and again, the justice comes first in Eric's mind. Always. The justice always comes first. So Eric is a detective. He works hard, and he has, his family who he has to provide for. He has to do everything for them. You even argue that at this point Kelly has decided to become just a stay-at-home mom and take care of stuff on that front. And, Eric's starting to feel a lot of pressure for justice has to come first. My family comes first. All these things. Well, unfortunately, Eric, gets a new partner and realizes that he doesn't have responsibilities with her. And his marriage with Kelly isn't going as smooth as he thought it would be. It's not like his parents, He always saw the good side of his parents and didn't always see them fighting or being, upset with each other like Corey would often see. So it's almost like Eric was sheltered a little bit from those situations. And so Eric didn't fully know how to be a good husband and a good listener and all those things as time progressed. And unfortunately, Eric decides to have an affair with his partner, which leads to his wife finding out, which leads to the two of them starting divorce processes. Now, this is important, Brett, because the two of them end up separating, and around this time, also, a new serial killer starts popping up in this area. I'm not going to give you the name of the serial killer yet, but just know there's a new serial killer, and it's confusing, and Eric was supposed to be on the case because at this point he's been one of the top dogs for, dealing with crazy people and trying and really closing out his cases, getting justice done. So at one point he was actually doing the investigation into this, but because of his personal stuff, he was pulled off of that. And also some of the stuff started to come up, that the police department was dealing with, and so they actually make the call of, hey, things aren't right with you right now, you're dealing with a lot of stuff, like, we're going to give you like more desk assignment, help us do some desk work, so you're still working, you're still doing stuff, but just you need to take some break from on the case, and we want to give you a break from that and let someone else handle this serial killer situation. And so at this point, he and Kelly really don't have much of a relationship. They're going through the divorce process and they're not getting along, Brett. And his son just is constantly getting into trouble. And it's his adopted son. He has all legal rights over him. And as a cop, he finds out about stuff. And so if he does something wrong or whatever, he is quick to go save him from the situation. He's always there to support him. And, eventually it just becomes too much, Brett. His son isn't learning anything. He's constantly doing things wrong. And they get into an argument because the son, he does enjoy living with Eric in general because he loves him as a person, but doesn't always like him. But, him and Eric aren't getting along, and so eventually they get into an argument. He's like, just leave. Just go back to your mom and only be with her, essentially. Kind of rejecting him in a way. And right around the same time, Brett, he gets a phone call about coming to a scene. an active crime scene, which it's been a while since he's been to, one, and he knows it's about this serial killer, so he's kind of like, why am I here? Like, this has nothing to do with me. I'm not a part of this case. Why are you guys making me get involved? And of course, it's his ex-girlfriend, his ex-partner, I mean, not an ex-girlfriend, ex-partner, that calls him to this scene. And he gets there and realizes that the serial killer is calling him out personally. And he's like, what is happening? And it's actually his informant who was murdered in the situation as well. So someone that he has used to get information on people, and work, and kind of a person that's a part of his little corporation for planting evidence. This guy is a big deal for him, and he was trying to protect him, and he was murdered. So now Brett, he has to. He kind of starts working on the case a little bit. He doesn't want to, because he's like, hey, that's not my case. I got personal stuff going on. But he stumbles onto a little evidence and realizes something, makes a break in the case. And so he helps the other police officers go see if they can find this person. And so they go, Brett, to arrest. They think they got the serial killer, right? And they think, hey, this guy's figured it out. We're going to go arrest him. Well, unfortunately, the house that they arrived to is booby-trapped. And they're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get to this guy? And they finally make their way to it. And he comes into the room. And he's got a hood on. He pulls the hood off of him. And he says, am I looking close enough now? And he says, I have you exactly where I want you, Detective Matthews. He goes, yeah, and why do you call yourself Jigsaw? And what he learns, Brett, is that his son is actually in another house. He is trapped with other people that he has put into jail. He planted evidence against these people, and now his son is locked in a house with the people that he planted evidence on. And if you're not realizing right now what I'm describing, good-looking people, this is the setup to the second movie in the Saw franchise, where Danny Wahlberg plays a character named Eric Matthews, Detective Eric Matthews, and his son gets put into a house full of people that he planted evidence against, and he has to sit and talk with the murderer known as Jigsaw. And if he plays that game, he sits and he talks with him, he will find his son in a safe place. Now, if you don't know or have not watched this movie and you're like, that's not a movie for me, I fully recommend the first at least 2 Saw movies, because those are pretty good cinema if you like kind of more of a psychological thrill ride. As they progress, it gets more into the torture stuff.
Yeah, they get more into one-upping everything after 3, but yeah.
But this first, especially the first movie and then the second one, are these really 2 cohesive story into who this murderer is and why he does what he does, and there just happens to be a character named Eric Matthews. I don't know why.
Was just a gape at that.
Yeah, I don't know why his name was Eric Matthews, but it is, and he's in 3 episodes. He's in 3 movies. He's in the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. Yeah, and it always just kind of just made me giggle. I was thinking about this like a month or 2 ago, and I was like, I wonder if anyone else has posted a thought or a retrospective on Eric Matthews to Eric Matthews, and no one has. So I was like, let me do it.
Well, there we go. Good looking people. What do you think?
What do you think, Brett? That's
I
the real
think
question.
it's an interesting take to get us to the Eric Matthews of the movie. I could see it getting there eventually.
Yeah. Well, the key in this story is that Eric has to have a focus, a drive, because we see so often in Eric Matthews with no focus, with no drive, with no goals. So if he has a goal, and we tend to see if he does actually have a focus, he will go full blown and destroy his life potentially if he needs to accomplish the thing he wants to. The longest time it was get to college. Once he got to college, he kind of, staggered a little bit because he's like, well, I'm here, now what?
Yeah.
Now learn.
Before college, he was going to stay at that the world's largest yogurt cup. That was going to be his mission. You put Eric in front of something that he wants enough, he's going to go for it.
Yeah. So, and I will say that
he is
the main reason
he's very black and white, very justice oriented at times. So
yeah, he is. He very much is. This is right. This is wrong, and we need to be more cautious. But he is also a people come first, and including putting himself down and willing to hurt himself. I think a lot of times, like, he'll make up jokes and he'll be the silly guy because he knows that's his role, because everyone else is dealing with so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also used Kelly and Ryan because I was like, well, that's an easy one to grab, and the kid's name is not Ryan, unfortunately. I wish it was,
No.
but yeah, I will say those are my two favorite of the Saw franchise, and is a franchise that I don't mind watching.
Yeah, those are definitely the top two for me as well.
It's not a bad franchise if you haven't watched it. I highly recommend it.
It's not. If you've got the stomach for some of the traps in the later ones, as a whole,
Yeah. And I will say there is a new
franchise.
one that has come out, and I'm waiting to watch it until it's on a streaming platform because it's one I want to watch, and I can't justify going to the movies and seeing.
Same here. Same here.
But yeah, that is our first spooky potential universe bad lane of going for Boy Meets World. So tell us what your thoughts are, and if you want us to do another one of these.
Yeah, let us know on social media. You know where to find us. At Dads Meet World. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Send us an email.
Send us an email.
dadsmeetworld@gmail.com. And hey, we'll spook you later.
Oh, do you want me to give a Halloween dad joke? Hold on, I got some. I didn't exit out of it. Although Google did. Thanks, Google. Hold on. I got another one.
You got another one?
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, here's a good one.
Okay.
Where does a ghost go on vacation?
To the Boozort. Where?
Malibu.
Malibu. Okay. I got one for you. Why is a ghost everyone's favorite party guest?
I don't know.
Because he always brings the booze.
What is in a ghost's nose?
In a ghost what?
Nose.
Boogies.
Boogers.
Well, good-looking people, it's just going to go downhill from here. So,
What is your
We'll
favorite
catch
dessert? Ice cream.
we'll catch you on our regular Friday episode. Good night.
Happy
everybody.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
You can find Dads Meet World on Facebook, Twitter, and probably a few other places just by searching for Dads Meet World. Dads Meet World is a production of Headfirst Studios. Headfirst Studios. Tell your story.